Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school. Yeah.
Raj.
Herb, what's going on?
Finger one, red number one, finger two, red number two. Raj, we may have messed up on one of our guests, so we are going to blame you for it. So everybody, you guys get to see the everything in action.
The behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
Well, we hope everybody's doing all right tonight.
Raj, let me tell me a little about me. Okay. In the mornings, I am a Morgan Muffle. It's tough for me to get up and get ready for the show or like to do anything. But on nights that we have the show, I'm like, bam, once it comes to nighttime. So I'm ready for this. So this is going to be kind of like a good show.
That was such a waste of time.
What? Let's the alpha pools are in full effect in here.
Getting into the alpha pool.
What's up, Kat? What's up, Lady Alpha? I don't know if she's flicking us off, but it just didn't come through.
I don't know if that's like podcast code, like Morse code for podcasters or something, but
well, I think she's trying to do emojis and maybe it just didn't translate. I have an Android, Cat, so I might not be able to read it.
I'm surprised she was able to type all that. That's pretty impressive.
I feel like we're the only ones not on tonight's show. That's because y'all are behind the scenes and you guys make everything work. So I still gotta say Herb's doing the woo. I should. You all should have heard what the talk was before we got on air on what our last show is going to be like. So if we can pull that off, it will be a grand old show. So 2 words for you: naked Mike. So that's all we're gonna. That's all we're gonna say. So gosh. All right, the gang is all here. So these guys, we always do regular intros, right? But we're at the point where these guys are family, so they get one thing only, one intro. All right. Yeah. So our first guest, probably one of our first guests, I guess, Roger actually knew what he was talking about. Would kind of inform us.
Because honestly, we did. When you and I started, we had no idea what we were talking about.
No. And this guest was like y'all better step up your game if I'm going to continue to come on your show. Yeah. So, and the last thing, all the staff decisions that are going to be made in this offseason, he has to okay everybody to come back or to be fired. So,
gotcha.
What's up, Bama Beat? How are you doing tonight, sir?
Bama Beat.
I'm good, guys. How are y'all?
We're good.
Doing good.
Got a third one there. What's up, Win? How are you doing? Hope you're having a good night.
Thank you for joining us.
What's that? It's a foam finger. Oh, we thought it was Morse code and you were trapped in.
I couldn't figure that one out, but thank you for pointing that out, Lady Alpha, because I was very confused.
Which, by the way, folks, sometimes people call me and I whisper and and they're like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I'm stuck in someone's trunk." And let me tell you,
you've told me that like 20 times, but it's not entertaining. Like it was almost funny at the first time, but now it's just like, okay.
But I'm more worried about the people who are not trying to help me out of the trunk, Raj.
I'm just trying to figure out how you got in the trunk, and you're a grown man. And you got
stuck in someone's trunk.
We'll call Liam Neeson.
What's up, Randy? Sir, how are you doing?
Evening, Randy.
All right, and the other person, Raj, we all know this guy because he's family. I don't know if you know this because Mom told me this. She told me not to tell you, but I'm going to tell you on air. Every week before she calls me or you, she calls him first to see how he's doing. So, what's up, Big Mike? How are you doing, sir?
Thanks, Mike.
What's going on, guys? Did I miss any announcements at the beginning of the
show? No, nothing at all. Nothing at all.
And she does call me, but that's only because she's too nervous to call you guys because she just wants to make sure that you guys are happy. So she calls me to check on you guys because she knows we talk.
Okay. I know that's not true because Mike never calls me afterwards. So she's like, "Hey, Mike, are the guys okay?" Mike's like, "I don't know." I'll talk to him tomorrow, I guess. I don't know. It's not bothering me. All right, so we got a lot to get to tonight, hopefully. But we got to start. Raj and I think I've already heard enough of Raj's thoughts, so forget that guy. We'll start with you, Bama. And we saw the stuff that you posted, but you go ahead and kind of say it publicly. Your reaction to Alabama getting left out and basically basic thoughts with all that. And was it even getting left out?
Yeah, I thought going into the weekend, heading into that ACC championship game, that Alabama had a good shot to make the playoff. Just the different ways that game could turn out. And unfortunately for Alabama, it went about as bad as you could hope for with a Clemson win. SMU keeps it competitive by coming back in that fourth quarter. So, that did not play out well for Alabama's chances. And, unfortunately, the committee on Sunday decided to put the Mustangs in the college football playoff. And, I see both sides of the argument. SMU certainly had a very weak strength of schedule, but Alabama lost to some bad teams on their schedule. Much better wins, but losses count too. So I think at the end of the day, the argument, depending on your perspective, could go either way. And I mean, the bottom line is, if you're Alabama, you should have taken care of business and then not put it in the committee's hands. So I think in the long run, this might not be the worst thing for the program. I've always thought you learn the most from your mistakes that actually have consequences. So we'll see how they respond to this, but not super surprised with how it played out given the result of that ACC championship game, but still certainly disappointing.
Yeah. Mike, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, not really. As far as that's concerned, I agree. The way that it was set up going into the championship games, they kind of had to do what they had to do. You can't penalize the number 8 team in the country for going into your conference championship and losing the championship game. Where the problem lies, in my opinion, is how in the world, if you value strength of schedule the way Warren Manuel said they do, is SMU at number 8 in the first place with as weak of schedule as they played. If they would have come into the week at number 11 or 12 then it doesn't look like you're punishing them for losing their championship game. And I agree with Bama Beat that, Alabama should have taken care of business. They didn't deserve to be in the playoffs because of that. But going forward, they've got to look at how they rank these teams going forward. Everybody says, well, it doesn't matter until the last week. Well, it did this time because this means it mattered before then. Because, again, if they were ranked 12th or 13th going into that game, then the whole commentary is different if they got left out. You're not necessarily punishing them. That just becomes a play-in game.
Yeah. Raj, because Kat wants to know what you think. None of the rest of us, just Kat. Go ahead.
I mean, I stated on last week's show that I felt like Alabama was in or out regardless of the outcome of the championship games, especially the ACC championship game. However, I feel like the outcome of the ACC championship game was the worst possible scenario for the committee. And even when they were watching that game, they were getting even more nervous. I feel like there was two sides to that game. If Clemson had won and just demolished SMU and beat them like 41-14, we're in. If SMU wins, we're in. The worst possible thing that could happen for Alabama fans was Clemson winning on a last-second field goal. So after that happened, I still felt confident we were going to somehow squeeze in at 11. Obviously, I was wrong when we found out the next day. But, I mean, when you look back at the season, I mean, obviously that loss in Norman was hugely and just detrimental to our team and to the outcome and the final scenario. But, I mean, it is what it is. Both Herb and I predicted, 10-2 and making the playoffs at the beginning of the season. We were a game short, and obviously we missed the playoffs. So it's unfortunate, but we still have a chance to finish with a 10-win season. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So even though we're not happy, I guess the bracket ends up to be very efficacious, and most of the world is happy at how that whole turned out, except for Bama fans. The only thing I'm tired of is everybody just kind of like coming after us the whole time. There's more talk, I guess, about Alabama than there was about the whole rest of the bracket. So it's just kind of like, it gets tiresome. So
yeah, there was a lot of ballyhoo on social media, especially Sunday after the brackets were released, and then Monday, and Tuesday, and so forth. And it's going to go on forever. I mean, you see people on Twitter today posting about, I can't believe they let SMU in. At some point, you just got to come to realization it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. So
yeah. It's funny. They're just going to keep throwing stuff at the wall and tinkering with it. I guess until they feel like they get it right, but everything just keeps changing. So
yeah.
And what's up, Air Raid, man? Good to see you. I should have loaded up our pictures of finally meeting Air Raid. So at Oklahoma too as well. I don't know if we loaded that up or showed anybody, Raj.
I don't know.
All right, so we do have a little bit of time, I guess, before we get into the SEC. So we have to go with a certain tradition that we always do on here. Some grades from Bama Beat as we kind of go on through. So I don't know if we have time to break down the total. Well, I mean, we usually go more offense anyway than defense, and I kind of feel like how some of this is going to come out. So let's start off with the tried and true quarterback position.
Oh, man, that's an A+. Got to be.
And Mike already gave you the sideways look, like, so yeah, I don't know.
Well, for anyone who's read my Twitter this year, you're probably aware I'm not the biggest fan of Jalen Milroe, especially in this offense. Grade wise, I'd probably go like C+. Potentially you could bump that up to a B- because I think there were some good moments this year. I just don't think we got the production, especially in the passing game, out of the quarterback position that we needed this year. I don't know that it's true that Milroe necessarily regressed. I just think we're in an offense now that's quarterback driven. And I think we talked about before the season, you can't really hide your quarterback in this offense. And I think that played out on the field. I think Milroe at this point in his career, still uber talented. I still think he's got a chance to develop into an NFL guy. But he doesn't process super well. That's something you got to be able to do in DeBoer's offense. So at this point in his career, I think he's more of a guy that, is a complementary piece on an offense, not somebody that you build the entire offense around. So in my opinion, that was probably the staff's biggest failure this season, was just basing so much of the offense on the quarterback position. He's certainly dynamic with the quarterback run game, but just we couldn't really spread the ball around. I mean, that great deep ball he had last year that he was pretty consistent with just wasn't there this year, especially over the second half of the season. So I'm at a C+. You could maybe bump that up to a B- if you want to be generous, but I do think the quarterback position held the offense back a little bit this season.
Mike, do you feel like being generous, or are you going to stick him with the C+?
I'll actually be generous. I'll say a B- because while it was bad at times, when it was good, it was really good. You look at the first half of that Georgia game, some of the other games that he's had that was really good. He had moments where it looked like he was going to be the guy. And it just didn't last. So yeah, I'll definitely be generous for some of the good moments he gave us, and from some of the good times.
Oh, Mike's an optimist. That's basically what he's saying. So I know I'm a pessimist, so those games seem to spread out. Roger, do you have a different thought on that? We're gonna spend the most time on Milroe because he is the quarterback, but he definitely gets most of the criticism, most of the love. Where do you fall at, Raj?
Mike, were you gonna say something else?
Yeah,
Sorry,
this was Bama's.
No.
And we saw your other posts up there, Chris. I started, so we'll post.
Shout out to Way Outside, too. Thank you for joining us. Mike, did you have something else to say? I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to ask Bama Beat because he's closer to the program, obviously, than we are.
Yeah.
Was there ever a thought at all to maybe replacing him in even in one of the smaller games just to give somebody else a shot, or was that never even a thought?
I don't think it was. I thought there were several moments, especially the Tennessee game, and certainly the Oklahoma game, where it may have been beneficial to give somebody else a chance, even if it was just to calm Milroe down and give him a little perspective from the sideline. But I haven't heard that, being a serious option, which makes me wonder about, where does Ty Simpson stand with this coaching staff, and what does that maybe indicate for this spring's quarterback competition, assuming Jalen Milroe decides to leave the program or head to the NFL.
It's probably what else, Ben, and
thank you
what happened to be the run-in with Big Mike, on Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Central. So Mike was prepping our show and getting all our graphics together and still prepping for his show. So one of the busiest men in the business. Raj, you want to talk Arizona State versus UJ? I guess we got to make our picks later. These guys will make their picks now, but if you stick around, they'll tell you if they agree with you or don't agree with you. So Scataboo, that'll be the big decision there. Yeah, what's up? And you saw one, like I said, it seems like we're going to spend more time on Milroe. So my only problem with this comment, Cat, is he's been through, 3 offensive coordinators already, or 3 and a half if you want to count what's the one that just kind of popped in. So it's tough, to use a guy, especially once you get into good defense, as a guy who can't spread the ball around passing.
And why would you transfer right now when his draft stock is still pretty high? I mean, Kuiper had him projected as like the 3rd overall QB taken, which means he can go, depending on who's picking him, late first round or second round. So I mean, might as well go while you can. I don't know which quarterbacks are going to be coming out next year, but there's no need to transfer. Just go to the draft.
Yeah, I don't know that it gets better from here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And to Bama B's point, I mean, I kind of feel like he hit a ceiling during that Georgia game. That was the best we were going to see. And I was hoping we can kind of see it just continue over the season, but it never really got any better than that. Obviously, we saw his leg speed through the LSU game. But there were some other things as far as progressions and just reading the defenses that I didn't really see throughout the season. So I just kept it at a C+. And I don't know how everybody else feels, but I kind of feel like when DeBoer took over the position, I'm not sure if he wanted Milroe to be the starter, but he kind of said that this is the captain, this is the team leader. Maybe I don't want to ruffle too many feathers, so I'm going to leave him in there, see what happens. And for the most part, he did all right, but there were certain instances throughout the season when I feel like maybe Ty could have did better at some things. But, obviously we'll never know. And if Milroe goes to the draft, then I'm only assuming that Ty takes over next year. But, of course, we have Keelan Russell coming in. There's Austin Mack. Not sure what Lonergan's is going to do. I can only imagine we have one of those guys.
I can't believe they've stuck around this long.
I know. I wouldn't. I could imagine one of them transferring, maybe Lonergan or Mack. But obviously Mack is here because DeBoer's here. So like there's Lonergan. So I don't know. We'll see.
All right, let's move on to the next position, which I feel like is going to be a tough one: the running backs.
So I was at a B. Yeah, I thought they were pretty good this year, but probably not elite or anything spectacular. I thought Jam was probably our best back. He was a little more aggressive, pressing the hole, and he's got those jump cuts, kind of a Mark Ingram esque jump cut that I thought were really effective with some of the issues we had blocking up front. So I thought he was really solid. I was a little disappointed with the year Justice Haynes had. I was hoping to see a little bit more from him. The O-line was certainly not a great run blocking unit this season, so I don't want to be too harsh on them. But those were kind of Alabama's 2 main guys this season, and I thought they were pretty good, but not great.
Rog, how do you follow on that one?
No, same. To way offside's point, I just feel like they could have got a solid A for me had they got the ball more. There were several instances in plenty of games, even the LSU game, maybe even the Tennessee game, when they could have got more touches. It's unfortunate, and you can only sit here and think and wonder and hope that Justice Haynes doesn't enter the portal. I forget. Is Jam a sophomore or junior? I think Jam's a junior. So I'm hoping he stays around maybe another year. I'm not sure what he's going to do, but I would love to see what happens if they can both return. And not to mention we have Richard Young out here. We saw glimpses of him and his speed and what he can do in the open field. But, again, they have to get the touches on the ball.
Yep. And what's up, JT? I'll never know who Joshua Aaron Tucker is, but I'll always know who JT is. So this one will always throw up. So what's up? Hey, Carol, I got another Georgia Bulldog in the house. What's up, Carol?
Appreciate y'all for joining us.
I newly minted as our favorite Georgia Bulldog, so he said, I want everyone to stay except Rex has posted a bunch of stuff about this too, so you should definitely go check him out. But I mean, like I said, I do feel like we're kind of at the end of the road with him. So
and I want to say one thing about that. I don't think when people make comments like that, I don't think they're all just coming at Milroe in some sort of negative fashion. I mean, we've all voiced our opinions about Milroe, and some people want him to stay, some people want him to go, whatever the case may be. But we're just being honest Bama fans out here. We're not trying to throw any shade at anybody. That's all I wanted to say about that right quick.
I agree. All right, and Air Raid Mike, I don't know if you ever had a chance to stick around, but we saw you over there trolling. So good afternoon, buddy. Hope you're having a good night. Wide receivers. This should be an interesting one.
Yeah, so I actually thought the wide receiver group was pretty good this season. The production maybe wasn't there as much as you'd like, just with some of the struggles to throw the ball consistently. But Alabama's top two, and Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard, I thought were pretty consistent. Ryan probably had his worst game of the season against Auburn,
right?
Which is that's good when you have a 17-year-old freshman that gets through a whole season without really having a bad game until the end. So I thought those two were really good, but beyond that, we didn't get to really see some of the depth show out on this team. Kendrick Law, who's now in the transfer portal, that was somebody I think was a fan favorite. A lot of folks wanted to see him utilized a little bit more. You got E-Man Henderson, a few others. Caleb Odom, who's also now in the transfer portal, weren't able to really utilize him. He did have some issues with drops, the few opportunities that he did get. So I thought the top two were really good. Behind that, we just couldn't really, get anybody going. So I'd be at like a B+ for that group.
Quick question: do you think Jeremy stays, or do you think he goes to the draft, or where's your head at with that regarding him?
I haven't heard anything, but I feel like he probably ends up staying. I haven't looked into his draft grade too much, but I'd imagine it's not like terribly high to the point where he'd leave school early. So I'd expect him to stay, and hopefully he does so.
Yeah. And who is it that we have already visiting?
North Carolina State. Kevin. Lord, what's his last name?
What's a cool last name?
Kevin Concepcion.
Yes.
I think he'll be in Tuscaloosa like this weekend, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's got a chance to be a big-time player. He was super productive as a freshman, dipped a little bit as a sophomore, which is not too uncommon. Common term is sophomore slump, but that'd be a big addition for Alabama. A&M, I think, is the main competition. He'll be on A&M's campus. I believe he's actually there today and tomorrow. So that's probably going to be your main competition there. But if you could pair him with, Jeremy, if he comes back, and Ryan Williams next year, that's a hell of a receiving core.
Yeah.
I got Addies for the committee we ride after the show.
not to mention Jalen Hale should be back next year too. So
the Hail Mary. Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Mike, you agree with the wide receiver grade?
Yeah, I mean, since I guess for really them and the running backs, I don't guess I is an appropriate grade to give them, because I just don't know that we got to see everything that we should have with both groups. So since that's not good, I mean, yeah, I would agree from what we saw.
I already looked at like, is this actually?
It's funny that I'm glad Randy posted that, because I just pulled it up on my phone, and I think he's addressing a rumor that he left the portal, but I haven't really dove into all that yet, so I'm not sure. But I saw it floating around Twitter the past like 1 or 2 days, so I don't know if it's accurate. Randy, you can kind of help us out with this one. I can't look into it right now, but I'm sure he was upset with what happened last season. But then again, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Yep. Tight ends.
Yeah, it'd be the same grade for me, B+. I actually thought we utilized them a lot better this year than we have the past several seasons, especially in that Auburn game. I thought overall that Auburn game had a really good game plan, especially leaning on the running game. Alabama wasn't super productive. They averaged 3 yards a carry in that game, but there's so much you can call off of the running game, and those little tight end seam routes, if you want to call them that, where we kind of snuck them behind the linebackers, was really effective in that game. I thought CJ Dupree did some good things. Josh Cuevas, those were kind of your two main guys this season. I really like Cuevas as a receiver. I think he could continue to improve and become a bigger and bigger part of the offense. But yeah, B+ for that group. Pretty solid this season.
I feel like Robbie Oates gets bigger every time he catches the ball, man. He just doesn't slow down, but he just looks bigger every time he catches the ball. That is a big human being. Yes. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I didn't. I would agree. I mean, I would say B+, maybe an A-. I mean, I thought they actually outperformed what I thought they would do. So, they actually did a lot better.
Yeah, I was remiss to not mention Robbie Oates' efforts in the blocking department. Yeah. I mean, he just, I love seeing him score that touchdown. I don't remember who we were playing. It was the Cupcake Week there to end the season. Yeah, Mercer, the long touchdown he got against Mercer. Love seeing that for an older guy.
Yep.
That put in the work.
Have mercy on me.
Bama beat. You don't have to laugh at all. It was horrible. While we're talking about the receiver room, one thing I want to note is that, like, I hope DeBoer is kind of preaching to all the recruits and everybody that's on the team right now that things will look different next year. I know we've kind of hit it on the fact that, that everybody, a lot of people have been underutilized. I really have a good feeling about the offense next year, and that's exactly what I told Herb when we were walking out of Norman. I was like, man, this sucks, but I'm excited about our offense next year.
He basically said that, Raj. Without saying it, like, just thanks for everybody for understanding the position. He basically said, hey, we didn't have a quarterback that could get you the ball. Sorry.
Well, and that's the best you could do. I mean, we all knew what he was trying to say, and he was trying to be politically correct about everything. But I just think next year the offense is going to look completely different, and I'm looking forward to it.
Go ahead, Bama. Were you about to say something on that, or were you?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Alabama didn't make the playoff this year. I mean, I think we knew with all the with how difficult the schedule was that the margin between 10-2 and 9-3 was going to be tight. Right. And, at 9-3, you were probably going to need some help to get in the playoff, which unfortunately Alabama didn't get. But I just, even though the season was, technically a failure by Alabama terms, I do, want people to remember that Kalen DeBoer came in, last January. It was a tough situation. They were kind of in retain mode, just trying to keep guys on the roster. He kind of had to rush a coaching staff together. These are not players that he recruited. There's talented players on the rosters, no doubt. But, I'd say, especially along the line of scrimmage, a lot of guys that probably don't fit into, the typical, type of player that DeBoer is looking for. So I think people just need to be patient. I think it's way too early to give up on Coach DeBoer at Alabama. I think he can still be super successful. Just got to give him time to get his guys in.
Yeah, that's one thing I got tired of. I said, I know there's a lot of talent left behind, but there's also a lot of problems left behind, and throwing together everything. Like, everybody act like he just moved his whole Washington staff down here, and should have, and the whole team stayed here for him and everything. Like, I was like, none of these things happened. So
his quarterback this year was completely different than having him at Phoenix last year. It was two completely different quarterbacks.
Yep.
Brian Grubb and Scott Huff, they left late right before spring practice. That was, it was tough. It was going to be tough to replace them on that short notice. So,
All right, O-line, and then we'll just do kind of defense as a whole, and we'll move into our SEC picks.
Yeah, so I'd be at a B- for the O-line. I thought they were pretty decent in pass protection most of the year. That right tackle spot was kind of a weak point. I don't think Elijah Pritchett really ever kind of settled in there and, played to his full potential. So we saw Wilkin Formby a little bit to end the season. People were really tough on him early in the season when they had that rough game against, I believe it was South Florida.
I think it was South Florida, yeah.
But, he's a young player. I think he's still got a chance to be really good. So, again, on the offensive line, I think the body types we have up there right now are not probably what DeBoer is going to recruit in the future. We have a lot of size up front, slower moving guys. Mm-hmm. This offense is a lot of, pulling guards. They even pull the center sometimes. So you got to be quick on your feet. You got to be able to move. I don't think it was a coincidence that Parker Brailsford was, probably Alabama's best O-lineman this season. Tyler Booker was pretty good as well. But you got to be able to move. And I think there's probably a few on this O-line that need to lose some weight or just going to have to be, replaced with different types of players in the future. So I thought they were, good in pass protection for the most part, not very good in run blocking. So that's where I settle in at a B-.
Roger or Mike, either one of y'all want to add to or move on to defense?
I agree.
I'm good. B- is fine with me.
Mm-hmm. All right. And we'll just do the defense of the whole just because of time constraints.
So let's see. I had written out grades for each of the positions. So let's see what this averages out to. So I think I'm like at a B+, maybe an A- for this defense. I think the last time I was on, I was a little too harsh on this defense. And
Mike remembers that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was right. It was during the bye week, so it was shortly after that Tennessee game. Not long after that Vandy game and the second half of the Georgia game. I think Alabama at that point was still trying to settle into this new scheme. Yeah. So there were probably some struggles there that were more related to the scheme change than anything. So I actually thought they played really well to end the year. Statistically, they ended up. They're going to end up being one of Alabama's better defenses, at least from a scoring perspective, since 2017. I think that's impressive, under a first-year defense coordinator with a scheme change and everything. The D-line was probably the weakest group on the defense. I've got to get those guys to play with a little bit more discipline. And there again, that's another position group that probably doesn't fit exactly what they're looking for. This is not I saw somebody today talking about we got to get a big nose guard. This system does not use big nose guards. This is not a two-gap defense anymore. So we won't be getting players like that. But D-line, probably the weakest position group. Linebackers, I thought, really came into their own as the season came to an end. Lawson was good. Campbell's going to be a first-round pick. He was fantastic to end the season after struggling early. And the surprise of the defense for me was that defensive back group. That was a position that we came into the year saying, this is probably the weakest position on Alabama's defense. I thought they really grew into their own. Some quarterbacks didn't take advantage of some open guys earlier in the season, but we saw that slowly kind of fade away as the season went along. And I think they've got a lot of really talented young players back there and some guys that filled in injury situations that I think will be better for it in the future. So, I think Kane Womack's earned another year, and I'm excited to see what the defense can do next season.
Mm-hmm. Roger, Mike, I see a lot of shaking. We both agree on
go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I think I know what you're going to say. I think we'll agree. So go ahead.
I agree pretty much. I would say B minus. My only issue with the defense was maybe the lack of in-game adjustments in some of the games, especially like the OU game. I mean, we obviously were there, and even when you're watching from the TV, you're just kind of wondering, like, okay, they're kind of running the same plays over and over and over. We can kind of make some adjustments and kind of figure this out. But other than that, I mean, the secondary really, really surprised me because to Bama Beat's point, I had no idea what it was going to look like at the beginning of the season, but I was pleasantly surprised. Bray Hubbard really showed out. I think he ended up, 3 or 4 interceptions. I think he led the team in interceptions this year.
Which is crazy considering when he started.
Exactly. And we'll have Keon Sabb coming back next year. He should be healthy. So I'm excited about the secondary next year.
Yep. All right, we're transiting. The one tweet I had kept from earlier. So did the comedian right? No, Bama's over maybe. Yeah. And that's the problem. Because it's a maybe, it's too much arguing going to go on about it. So, I think it's we'll show our Oklahoma guy a little love. If I can find his tweet, I should have saved. But that's basically where we lost the playoffs, was at Norman. Yep. So, that's basically it for you. So, all right. We had if you didn't watch this show, shame on you. But we had a show where we went through the whole SEC outside of Alabama. And then just to even things out, we threw in Colorado because Big Mike's our resident Colorado guy. And we made picks and predictions for all our teams. So I want to say maybe we had 2 right predictions and a whole lot of wrong, but we're about to go through it too. So maybe at the beginning of the season, but I don't know. I think we kind of all agree they grew up during the season. They were better, and we'll have a better start next year. So I
just think it was more unknown at the beginning of the season. We just didn't know what to expect. I didn't think they'd be bad. We just weren't sure.
Yeah. I didn't know how anything was going to look, but we were all surprised, so I'll take it.
And that's what he's saying. Oh, yeah, definitely not the case. No. And I think we all agree on that. All right, so I see where you got loaded up first here, Mike. We starting with you. Now, to be fair on your 7-5, you basically said, I don't think they're making the playoff, but I do think they're going to make a bowl and be much better. So I know I felt like 7-5 was kind of your, bottom for them, that it would be, I just felt like you were saying it wasn't going to be worse than that. But they did end up at 9-3. But, Mike, this is your part. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of exactly what you said. I didn't think they would they actually got a lot closer to the playoffs than I thought they would. I thought 7-5, 8-4, kind of that range, maybe a 6-6, depending on how a couple games went. But I was really happy with the season went. The defense got a ton better throughout the season, which is the biggest surprise of the entire team. I'm excited to see what Coach Braun does next season to changing quarterbacks out. And now that, his kids aren't there, so to speak, see what he does going forward.
Yep. Already recruiting well, though. So got a quarterback, and Odom is linked there, too.
And
I forgot. I'm sorry. Q is somebody who showed us some love on Twitter and said he would check us out. Q. Forgot to say, what's up, T-Man? Hope you're doing all right tonight. All right. Rod, were you saying something? I'm sorry.
I think either Coach Prime or even Travis Hunter even said that there's another guy, like Travis Hunter-esque guy on the roster for next year. I don't remember the name.
I would not put that on anybody.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That's a heavy load to carry. And obviously they have Julian coming in as far as quarterback, so you can only assume he'll be the starting quarterback. But it'll be interesting to see how they kind of transition on from Shedeur and Travis Hunter.
I mean, he did pass the phone to him.
Yeah.
So this was me, Mississippi State. I gave them 5 and 7.
I don't think anybody predicted this.
I mean,
unfortunately, it's not the worst one we're going to look at, as we'll see.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know what to say. Like,
I'm just realizing they lost to Toledo.
I mean, it's just pretty ugly in there. I mean, you beat UMass and Eastern Kentucky. Yeah, that's okay. Sorry, Mississippi State. Raj, Kentucky. You said 6 and 6, and
I was a little off. Games. I mean, they almost won the Georgia game.
Okay, well, let me say this, Raj. What? If you had said at the beginning 6 and 6, and I said, "Hey, they're going to beat Ole Miss," then what would you have said?
Probably not. Probably not. I mean, when you look at their losses, I mean, South Carolina's almost made the playoffs. Georgia, we know what they did. Vandy, Florida. Not sure about the Auburn. I feel like that's the game they could have won. So the Auburn and the Georgia game, that was really, really close. But other than that, I feel like if Kentucky had a better quarterback and a better offense this year, a lot of those L's would be W's.
Yeah, which is surprising because they had transferred in with Vandergrift. Yeah. So I thought maybe you were trying to solve it and you didn't. So and that brings us to Bama Beats' first one. I mean, he was a little more generous than them. So
I was pleasantly surprised by this one.
You were okay being wrong?
We all were.
Yeah, I think what did Auburn in is just early season struggles. You know, I think the front half of their schedule is more gettable. They had those 5 straight home games to begin the season, but they just, they dropped some games they shouldn't have. Namely, I'm looking at that California, Arkansas, Oklahoma 3-game grouping there. Like, that was just rough to drop all 3 of those. So I feel like they should at least win 2 out of 3 of those and maybe gotten to 7-5 and get to a bowl game. But, for some reason, Hugh Freeze was really insistent on throwing the ball this year, despite the fact that they had, one of the best running backs in the SEC and Jarquez Hunter in the backfield. So, happy to be wrong on this. But from an Auburn perspective, certainly missed a lot of opportunities early in the season.
Yeah. He got that great wide receiver group, and he was just the Auburn guys, they were like, he's married himself to Thorne, and nobody could understand why. Yeah. And it just didn't go well. And the problem was just somewhere in with a couple of these wins, like I think in Kentucky and like UL Monroe and even A&M, he threw the ball well, and it's kind of fooled them. Oh, he's good. No, he's still not good. Like, this is not a good thing. So that brings us back to the Herb. I was right. And I remember Brian, of course, Brian skips this section, but he said 9 and 3 for them. And I mean, I was right, but I wouldn't have minded being 1 game wrong,
Thanks, Herb. So you're the reason we're not in the playoff.
My bad. I apologize. If we could have flip-flopped the last 2 games, I would have taken a perfect prediction. But have you ever had a 6 and 6 just hurt you the most? Like, this one hurts me the most. So yes, we're moving on. Raj and Vandy.
What was I off with this one?
Thanks a lot, Raj. You're the reason why we're not in the playoffs.
I mean, nobody
had to pick them to get 2 wins.
Nobody thought Vandy was going to be bowl eligible this year. We didn't see that coming, but obviously they proved something wrong. Of course, with the exception of the last 3 games of the season, when everything just kind of went downhill.
They got the bowl eligible. Like, you know what? I'm good. Yeah. So good. Congrats to Vandy. Good for them.
Raj, I was listening back to the show when we did the picks, just so I could get myself familiar in preparation for this. And there's a point in there where you're like, it's Vandy, and I was thinking, that was when it doomed us.
Rex. Oh, this hurts.
Oh man. Herb and I wait till Twitter hears that Herb and I jinxed them this season. Oh my gosh!
You know it's funny because I was doing this before Mike put together the slideshow, which, by the way, really thank you, Mike, because that was a huge hit. Because otherwise, we were going to be going off my notes on a piece of paper. It was going to be really bad.
Yeah.
When I was listening to it, I didn't realize Raj and I had Vandy in Oklahoma. I was like, oh, this is so bad. And then they both end up at 6-6. So it just seems like, what was the whole point of this whole thing? Could y'all not finish at 8-4 or something, or challenge anybody? No.
What bowl is Vandy going to?
That would be the Birmingham Bowl.
Oh yeah, they are. I considered going to that. It's on a Tuesday though. That's the only thing I hate about it. So, the last Birmingham Bowl I went to, Houston beat Auburn. So I won't go to root against Vandy. I might just go just because it's here. Sorry, Rex. We know we let y'all down. Let's move on to the next one. M beat with Arkansas. That was a weird season for Arkansas.
Yeah, so I missed this one pretty good. I'm happy I missed it too because I like Sam Pittman. I'm glad to see that he's gonna continue to be the coach there because I felt going into the season that it was going to be really tough for him to keep his job. But to me, Taylon Green helped them a lot because he's kind of a high ceiling, low floor player. So I felt like there were a couple of games where he was really dynamic and maybe elevated Arkansas above their usual level. That win at Auburn was big. Obviously, you got the huge upset against Tennessee. So they stole a couple wins there and, got to a bowl-eligible record. So really happy to see that for Sam Pittman.
I missed something because I don't know which one that we missed with the Georgia. Look, if anybody's looking at my picks and I be janky, y'all are in trouble. And Rodg was way far off so far. So So you think Pittman is saved his job just getting to 6-6?
I think so, given the expectations coming in. I mean, I was at 3-9, which was probably a little harsh as far as preseason predictions. But I feel like the overwhelming feeling around Arkansas heading into the season was that they were really going to struggle to find wins. So to me, he performed above the mean. He should keep his job and get a chance to continue there.
So if the Pop-Tart Bowl mascot goes missing, Cat is the one who kidnapped him. We won't rat you out though. And I've seen some of it. I'll be honest, I've tried not to pay that much attention to the portal. It's tough, but just wait until after the bowl games and playoffs. Although players leaving before a playoff game, that just seems, I don't know, that's just
that's kind of
weird to me. So I don't get that one at all. And Carol, I think they already posted. I think you're right on that. They posted that Pittman will be back.
Yeah.
So Mike, to Mike's credit. Oh, go ahead, Rod. I'm sorry.
No, again, if they let Pittman go, who are they going to get to replace him? And then they'll have to go deal with the recruiting and all that stuff too. So I think they'll keep him around again. So
well, Mike, to his credit, as soon as this prediction started going wrong, he posted it on Twitter. So he already owned up to this one.
Kudos to Mike.
So
I watched the segment, like Ben B saying, and we were talking about which game gets Napier fired, and then Mike, take it away.
I think. Hold on. I think the real question here is how good would Florida be? What would the record be if Lagway starts from beginning to end and stays healthy? Just curious, but go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, watching Florida season definitely made me realize I am not as perspicacious about college football as I would hope I would be. I do. I think Lagway really took them a long way further than they could have been. But if he had started the whole season,
for anybody who's just tuning in, Raj and Mike,
I know what's going.
Their Lagway, long way.
Wait, no, hold up.
We didn't say
you're just going to put it on Raj and Mike.
Yeah,
you're in there too. Don't try that.
I've never even been on air with the two of you guys, so I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Like I said, Lagway can take this team a long way next season.
Yeah, I think every show that we do with Bama Beat, there's one moment where he kind of shakes his head and goes, "What have I gotten myself into?" Or you're just used to it by now. You're like, that's the guys.
I mean, it's okay to put in your rider next time, Bama Beat, that I'm not allowed to be on the show with you again. I understand. I hear myself talk, and I don't want to be on the show with me, so I get it.
Nah, man, y'all do a good job.
Appreciate it.
But definitely, I think they're obviously surprised me. I'm actually the one who said that the UCF game would be Gus Malzahn's job interview for this job, and then he ultimately has to leave to go be the offensive coordinator at Florida State, I guess. So yeah, I got this one wrong for so many different teams. So yeah.
Well, we could say technically you said Gus Malzahn would use this as an opportunity to go to Florida. The audio dipped. We didn't hear state, so you're fine. But nobody argued with you on this prediction either, though. So we can't really be too upset about that. So, and Randy, I see your portal thing, so I'll put that up in a minute. So. Oh, well, hey, I was almost there. So I don't know which game. I don't remember what I said as far as game. Probably not predicting to lose the last game. No, I'm sorry. South Carolina, Alabama. Well, of course I said Alabama and probably at Texas A&M. So who knows? Maybe I underestimated South Carolina. We'll see. But this was probably pretty spot on. As bad as Missouri looked at times, they still came out in 10-2, which I think is like a miracle. I mean, I'm sorry, 9-3, which is like a miracle for this team to actually get to that point, but I was close. I'm glad they're not 10-2 because if Missouri had made it to the playoffs, I'd be really upset. Here we go. Big Mike, Ole Miss, which might should have been correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this one made me feel a lot better about the season. If my Florida pick had not been so bad and I had got that Florida game right down there, I'd have been spot on. So I'm still going to blame Florida for me not getting this one right. But yeah, it was a lot better than what I thought it was, or a lot better than what I hoped, especially at the beginning of the season.
Well, I'm sure, losing to Georgia or losing to Kentucky and beating Georgia, you probably would have flip-flopped that, so you still end up the same, I guess. But yeah.
Essentially, it was the Florida game that came down to it because I thought for sure they'd beat Florida.
Yep. And the Bulldogs are talking about theirs, but yeah, we'll see. We'll get to that in a second. Thank to Rodg and LSU. Oh, Rodg, very nicely done, sir. Take it away.
I do what I can. I just do this little podcast thing on the side, but just help you guys out. But hey, man, what can I say? I predicted everything perfectly. I mean, hey, honestly, I don't remember what I predicted for the USC game. I think I did. I want to say I might have picked USC to win the game. Anyway, Texas A&M, the Alabama.
I would say Ole Miss. If you said they beat you at USC,
yeah, that might have been. Yeah. Everything else other than that was pretty fine. Wow. Kudos to me.
Look at him smiling at himself like he did something. You know what? Next.
I have another.
Another pro. We're on a roll.
Me and Bama B team up and make our own little thing here.
Yeah, so I'm pretty proud of this prediction because I felt like going into the season, I didn't really have a great idea of what A&M would be under Mike Elko, but I remember looking through their schedule and feeling like it was pretty favorable for A&M to come out with a pretty good season. So I was impressed with Mike Elko's team in year one. I think they play a really stingy defense, probably a few things to figure out on the offensive side of the ball, but Marcel Reed, is a young quarterback. I think he's going to continue to get better. So I think, the future looks pretty bright for them. They faded down the stretch. That loss to Auburn was pretty rough, and they weren't super competitive with Texas. So it kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth if you're an A&M fan. But, I think they, are on the up and up.
Hands.
Yeah. Well, does your perception of 8-4, though, change with the fact that they were 7-1 at one point and leading the SEC?
Well, I think their schedule was backloaded a little bit. I mean, it ended up being that way, because South Carolina ended up being better than everybody thought they would be. I figured that trip to Auburn would be tough, even as bad as Auburn turned out to be. And again, I think Auburn was a lot better team at the end of the season they were at the beginning. So, it's probably disappointing, especially if you're an A&M fan, because there was talk of playoffs just a few weeks ago. But 8-4 with a first-year head coach after the struggles they've experienced under Jimbo, that's a really good first season.
We got to jump out real quick for this one. So I know next week we'll probably be talking a little playoffs mixed in with whatever Alabama stuff. And then as far as our pick'em show, we're definitely picking the first round of the playoffs. And then depending on how the first round of the playoffs play out, we might be calling you Randy for some stuff. So, like I said, I think, and I might be wrong, I don't know, but I think getting to 7-1 and ending it at 8-4, like Bama said, the schedule being backloaded, but I think you do reset your expectations. So I think that's the problem with how they turned out. The 8-4 at the beginning of the year, they probably would have been fine with, but you get to 7-1, and it's like, all right, we're going to win the whole SEC.
Yeah.
And then you drop off a cliff. I think that's what hurt them. So,
Herb, can you go back to the LSU one right quick? Damn, I'm good. All right, proceed.
How did you not see that one coming?
Because I was reading comments and I thought maybe my brother actually had a brain for a second, but jeez. All right, who is this? Raj. Hey, Raj, you said, did you want to go back to see how good your predictions were?
Now, look, on this one, I feel like a couple games are rigged here, so let's see which ones they were. No, let's see. No, I didn't know.
The LSU loss was rigged.
Yeah,
that one certainly was rigged.
That was the one that might have kept them out of the playoff. Honestly, I didn't know.
Was it 2 pick sixes called in that game?
Like, at the beginning of the season, I didn't know how good South Carolina's defense was going to be. I didn't know the edge rusher was going to be that dangerous. So had I known that and been more aware, which is my fault, I probably would have given them a better record. But South Carolina and Shane Beamer really showed out this year. And obviously, they came inches away from making a playoff. So kudos to them. And we play out South Carolina next year, so that's going to be a heck of a matchup.
This was the record I just kind of threw out at the end because I didn't want to give anything. So I'm just going to slide on by. I mean, Tennessee made the playoffs. Congrats, whatever. I hate you. All right. So this one, well, Bambi, I'll let you go with it.
Yeah, so I think Georgia ended up being a little worse than I thought. But then right now I still feel like they got a great shot to win the Natty. So I'm feeling two different ways there. I think Carson Beck probably didn't perform how I thought he would this season, which probably resulted in that extra loss. And, they were really inconsistent. There's one or two other games on the schedule that they could have lost. But
I like how Mike put that they beat us. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, I just noticed that too. I don't know how I missed it many times as I went back to look at it.
Yes, Georgia, he really was.
Yeah, Georgia was Georgia. I mean, it's not too hard to pick, them preseason because that they're going to grind it out. Kirby's such a good head coach, and they're so mentally tough. They're going to find a way to get where they need to be at the end of the season. So, I wasn't exactly Nostradamus on this one.
Yeah. And Randy had actually picked them at 11-1 also, and he had picked them to lose to Ole Miss, which was interesting, and then to play Ole Miss in the SEC championship and then. So probably the only thing he got wrong. But yeah, I mean, we were asked earlier on the show or in the beginning of the year, they kind of told us, hey, we think the offense is going to carry the team. And then right before the Bama game, they asked us what we thought. And I was like, Georgia looks like they always look. Defense is top notch. Offense might start slow, but it'll catch up whenever they need it. So, and Georgia fans sometimes they feel like Bama fans at this point because none of them are upset that Carson Beck's not playing. They're
I've seen that.
We're good. So
yeah, one thought on that. I mean, I think there probably needs to be some pushback a little bit on that, just because I don't think Texas was prepared for a mobile quarterback to come into that game with Gunnar Stockton. So he looked good. I caution Georgia folks, let's see what he looks like when a team has time to prepare for him. And when they can, he's a young quarterback, they're probably going to throw some different looks at him and see how he responds to it.
All right. Well, I mean, because he almost ended up throwing the game away at the end. I don't think it's so much on Gunnar. I think it's a lot of guys were fed up with Beck.
Beck's lack
so it's not even necessarily the next guy. But I mean, we all know how every team is. Everyone likes the backup quarterback, so I get it. But I think there's just a lot of, and like I said, a lot of what I'm repeating is just what I actually asked guys who are in the know at Georgia or follow Georgia, whatever, what do you think? And they just, weren't happy with Beck. So, and then that brings us to Mike narrowly missing out on Texas. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I had all of it right except for that Georgia game. I thought they would come in better than that, especially after we had beat Georgia. I felt pretty good going into that game. Being one game off, I'm happy with it. I even said at the beginning of the season, if they were going to lose one, it would either be that one or Texas A&M. So yeah, I felt pretty good about it. And I'm just glad they didn't end up winning the actual SEC at the end of the season.
Thank you.
So I'm glad that Georgia won that.
Yes.
So yeah,
I was rooting hard against them in that game. So, and I know we're kind of running low on time, but I did want to at least give Mike and Bama a quick check at the brackets. So sorry, I'm just kind of springing it on you guys, but Who do you guys kind of see now? Who are your final four in each bracket? We'll start with you, Mike.
So I think it'll be Oregon, Georgia. I'll actually say Penn State. I know you guys don't like Penn State a whole lot, but I mean they just have such an easy road with Boise and SMU, and then I think Texas will be the final four.
Yep. Same here.
Bama, any differences, or are you with that final four?
I haven't looked into these games too closely yet, to be honest. But off the top, my initial thought is I kind of like Ohio State out of that top left quadrant. Really, just because I feel like it's tough to beat a team twice that's talented. So just
you can't say that, and you just watch what Georgia happened to Texas. So we're going to require you to come up with a different narrative.
That's my narrative right now.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Let me look into it a little bit. Let me look into it a little bit closer.
Okay.
I might change my mind, but I'll pick Ohio State out of that quadrant. Georgia out of their quadrant. I'll go Boise out of their quadrant just because I feel like James Franklin will screw up one of the first two games. I don't really like that matchup for SMU with Penn State, so I think they'll win, but end up losing to Boise, and then I'll go Texas in that quadrant.
And then who would your national championship game be?
I'll go Georgia and Ohio State, and Georgia wins.
Mike?
So I'd go Georgia, Oregon, and I actually think something about Oregon's team this year, and I like the way they look. I'd say Oregon takes it.
Yep. It's amazing. One of my favorite things about the playoffs is they keep talking about who has all the easy paths, and I'm like, if you have 2 or 3 teams that you think have easy paths, that means you think half these playoff teams just suck. So
yeah.
My biggest.
Hey, Randy, I wasn't saying that. I was saying, I'll say, yeah. I never heard you say it, but it just didn't seem like people were all that disappointed that Beck wasn't out there. So, like I said, that wasn't Bama folks. That was Georgia folks. So, Carol's got your back, though, on that one. All right. I'm sorry, Mike. Did I interrupt you?
Yeah, you did.
I was just going to say, everybody talks about the committee wanted to put this together for TV ratings and all that. But if that was true, there is no way that they would put Boise and SMU with a possible game there, because that may be the worst college football game of all season, not just the playoff. Nobody may watch that game.
What were you going to say, Bama?
One quick thought. I think folks who read my Twitter probably know I'm pretty anti-expansion of the playoff. I was good with 4 teams. This year is the year I really think you didn't need a playoff at all. Like the way the year played out.
Oh yeah.
Or it should be Oregon, Georgia national championship. Oregon's beat Ohio State already. They beat Penn State. Georgia's beat Texas twice. They beat Tennessee. I mean, it's pretty clear based on the regular season, but what they've done with their body of work, that those should be the 2 teams in it. So, with this playoff, one of the challenges is going to be rematches and playing teams that you've already played and trying to beat a good team again, So, like when Ohio State and Oregon play, assuming that's the matchup, that's a tough ask for Oregon to beat, a talented team like Ohio State again. I think Oregon's a better team, but, that's just one thing that, is a challenge with these playoffs, because from an Oregon perspective, it's like, why should game 2 matter more than game 1? But we've experienced that as Alabama fans as well. So,
could you imagine if we see Georgia versus Texas again?
Just putting that back up. Go ahead, Raj. I'm sorry.
Could you imagine if we see Georgia versus Texas again?
If Texas wins the 3rd matchup and wins the whole thing, I'll never forgive this stupid playoff system.
I know.
I'd just be mad. If they meet again, they should have to sub in another team for Texas.
Yeah.
So. And I encourage y'all to go listen to a couple of Longhorns broadcasts, because those guys are going in on their whole team, especially Ewers. My favorite quote from them was like, Ewers is just a guy. He's not going to lose you many games, but he's not going to win you many games either. So he's the real. If your coaches show up, I feel like the talent is out there, but I feel like sometimes they're meeting the players for the first time and like trying to prove points that aren't there. And nobody. I mean, and like I said, obviously I'm not a Georgia homer, but it would be unfair to Georgia to have to meet Texas and beat them 3 times in the same year to win a title. That just doesn't even make sense.
That's
we
embarrassing.
Beat you once in the regular season, we beat you in the SEC title. We lose the last one and we lose the national title. No. So, all right. Do have one question for each of you. not you, fool. Because we already know what you'll do. You ditch Herb. That's
Ditch
your
Herb,
every
yeah.
single
Okay.
time.
Right.
Thanks, Raj.
Right.
Raj ditches Herb. So,
Yeah.
Bama beat. Work, play, live, ditch. Coaches edition. You always get the good ones. So, Dabo, Ryan Day, James Franklin, Sark. This is the coaches that really need to win in the playoffs edition.
All right, I think I got this. I'm going to work for Dabo because I think he's always, from what I've read, had a pretty laid-back culture at Clemson. I know at one point they had like a slide or something in the building that you could get on and play like you're a kid. So that sounds pretty cool to me. I'll work with him. I'll
Plus,
play
you
with
never
Sark.
have to worry about somebody coming in outside and taking your job. So,
Right, yeah, you're hired for life regardless of how you do. So I'll play with Sark. That might be a little dangerous for Sark, but
Yeah, that's putting it politely.
I feel like he's a fun time. You know, anybody that could hang with Kiffin in his younger days is probably a good time. So I'll go play with Sark. Play live. I'm gonna ditch Ryan Day. I just don't like that guy. He just like,
you know what though? Most Ohio State fans right now don't either. They're trying to figure out, do they like Ryan Day or Chip Kelly less right now?
Yeah, I don't even know why I don't like him. I think it's like the Ohio State fans that are in my comments just rubbing off on me, like because they hate Day so much that I'm just kind of taking on their feelings. I don't really like how Ohio State basically bought their entire roster. I don't know how much he really had to do with that. I think that's coming from boosters, but he at least allowed it. So, and then I'll live with James Franklin. He seems fairly laid back. He looks like Keegan-Michael Key.
He does.
That, make for some fun jokes in the house.
Yeah.
So I'll go with that.
Sounds good. All right, Big Mike. Are you ready for yours?
Probably not, but we'll do it anyway.
You better not ditch me, Mike.
Work, play, live, ditch. Herb.
I knew it.
Raj. Randy. Sped.
And see, I figured you were going to do something like this.
Yep.
Be prepared.
Always be prepared.
Mine was a softball compared to this.
It's Sped. Are you still
because
here?
you don't have to go do a show with Ryan Day or any of these other guys on Thursday, or be in a group chat with most of these guys. So first and foremost, I'm going to work with Randy. The dude, I've heard you guys mention it. I've seen it on his show. The guy works harder than pretty much anybody else I know, so I'm going to work with Randy.
Yeah.
I look down and look up to see Roger's face, and it makes it even worse.
Yeah. Well, Bama got like 3 or 4 years in a row. Then he finally said, "I'm not answering another one of these until we win a national championship." So he has barred himself from having the tough ones until that happens.
So you know what? I am going to live next to Raj. Raj, every time he does this, he always says he wants to live next to me because we've got the Dolphins, the Lakers, Bama.
That is not why he wants to live next to you. He wants
I'm going to say I'm going to live next to Raj.
That's what it is. He wants a babysitter.
Yeah, that too.
Look, you don't want me watching your kids. I don't know why you would ever think that. They may have more mental acuity than I do, so they'd be watching me.
He's letting me watch the kids. It cannot get worse than that.
That's true.
That's true.
I'm just playing.
So now the hard.
Nothing but love for you, Randy.
Yeah, it's Herb and Sped. What are you doing?
Yeah, Herb and Sped. It's fine.
I have to see who I'm going to play with and who I'm going to ditch.
Is Sped still here? Sped, if you're here, chime in, please.
I'm sure I'll hear about it. And you know me, I'm not going to ditch, or I'm not going to dodge the question regardless of who I do. But knowing I have done this before,
I dodge it every time.
And I know what's going to happen. And I know Sped has a bunch of kids, and he's probably busy anyway. He's got a lot going on. I am going to
Sped is too busy. We can sub in Bama Beat for Sped to make it even worse for you.
No, we're good. You've already given me the 4. I've already written them down. I can't change it. My hand's broken, so I can't write again. But I am going to ditch Sped so he can spend time with his family, and I'm going to hang out with her because I know it's a good time. We've done it before, and we will do it again very soon, hopefully. And that's what I'm going to go with.
The state of Alabama. Randy tried his best. I mean, you can always send it to Texas, Randy. I'm driving out there.
Yeah.
So, all right, you guys survived. Yeah, Bama. We used to put him on the spot a lot, and then he said, "I'm not answering a Herb and Rodg question until Bama wins a title." So he is safe for another year.
I give the Bill Clinton answer every time. Talk my way out of it.
All right, guys, man, appreciate it. As always, the prediction show was fun. That was the first time we'd done it. So definitely like you guys coming in for the recap. Start with you, Bama. Tell everybody where to find you, what you got going on next.
I appreciate you guys having me on. You can follow me at the Bama Beat on X. Still getting used to calling it X. I don't know if I ever will, but I think there's some exciting times coming up for Alabama, even though they didn't make the playoff. I think transfer portal is getting really active. I think, Coach DeBoer and staff are going to try to flip this roster to an extent, bring in some guys they feel good about. So, we'll certainly be talking about that. Bama basketball is up and running, and it's been exciting so far. So a few more big non-conference games coming up, so certainly be tweeting about that at my account. So if you want to follow me there, you certainly can.
Appreciate it. And I did say I thought Randy's thoughts of what's going on with Georgia, the portal that he had posted earlier. So it's hitting but they're in a playoff. Like it'll just always bother me, man. Any playoff team, it bothers me for everybody, but any playoff team that's losing people to the transfer portal, I'm like, what are you really doing right now? So, and yes, it is always going to be Twitter. Bama, we always appreciate you, man. Like I said, the first time you came on, we had to step up our game. We were like, Raj and I called each other like, dude, did you hear everything he said? Like, I didn't even know
afterwards.
that.
I was like, how does he know everything? I
remember Nyblack, and we were like, what? I didn't even know who that guy was. So, man.
Speaking of Nyblack, nobody knows who he is now.
No, definitely not. He's in witness protection. So, and the only reason why Bond is in there because he got a Lambo. Big Mike, tell everybody what you got going on. And is the show still going on now that you've ditched Sped?
Well, I was gonna have to say you may catch me on Thursday on the Running Wrestling Podcast with Sped Rock. You can find us at @Big Mike 27 on YouTube and Twitter because I don't call it X either. I refuse. That will definitely check us out Thursday, 8 Central, 9 Eastern. There will still be a show, whether I'll be by myself or not. I guess we'll have to see. Hopefully, Sped will forgive me. He knows I love him. Hope to see you guys there. Come check us out, whether you like wrestling or not. We try to have a good time either way.
Yep. Let me, Carol, appreciate. I said one of our favorite Georgia Bulldogs. She's usually on Randy's show in the comment section. Randy's at 6 o'clock the next 2 nights. I don't know if they're doing a Powers Hour or waiting a week and maybe doing some bowl stuff, but at least tomorrow night you'll see Randy on there. Lady Alpha, half of the Alpha Pools, who always make us much, much smarter, or at least sound smarter on air. And Mike, like I said, man, we said it throughout the show, but definitely appreciate where you stepped up, man, and helped us out with all the graphics, and thumbnails, and cutting up the show and everything, man. So we appreciate you. Always great to do a show with you guys, man. So for Herb and Rodg Podcast, Raj, any final words from you?
No, man. No, just unfortunate that we didn't make the playoff, but it is what it is. Like I said, really, really looking forward to next season, though.
Yep.
Let's not overlook the Michigan game.
Oh, yeah. And we'll be doing some stuff for the Michigan game, of course. So, like I said, we'll be back next week. It might be a playoff preview because we will not be here the week after that. So we'll figure out the Christmas week. And, Randy, I should have texted you earlier. I will actually be out there the week of Christmas. I'll be out in Texas. We always say we're going to do a show, and then it comes up to twins, mom around, mother-in-law around, and it's like it gets too crazy to this show. So we'll figure something out. For the Herb and Rodg Podcast, appreciate our guests, appreciate the comment section. You guys make the show. We love it. Thank y'all. Have a wonderful night. And as always,
appreciate y'all. Roll Tide.